More ramblings from Rory. I'm trying this on a different computer this morning because I gather the sound quality is pretty poor on the computer I have been using, and I wonder if this will be any better. If you were to ask the proverbial man on the street what they made of Jesus, well, firstly, I guess given the current situation, you'd probably be arrested. So don't do that. Don't ask the proverbial man on the street. But if you were to ask someone who wasn't a Christian why Jesus came, you get a range of answers, wouldn't you? I guess the most historically ill-informed would say something like he never existed at all. He was a fable, he's a myth, like Jack the Giant Killer from Jack and the Beanstalk, or perhaps like Robin Hood. There may have been some vague vestige of truth in who he was, but actually we just don't know, and it's become lost in the midst of time and blown up into this big myth. And that answer, which I don't think is that common, that answer would sadden Luke, the person who wrote the gospel from which our book is taken, our Lent book, because he is a historian. He's hugely concerned to make sure that we know what he's writing is history. And at the very beginning of his gospel, his account of Jesus's life, he says, "Look, this is how I did it. I went to interview the eyewitnesses. I followed up the secondary sources, and this is truth that we're dealing with." But the man or the woman in the street, would I expect, say Jesus was a good man, he was a powerful man, he was a profound teacher, a healer, a revolutionary, maybe even a prophet. And all of those things would fall short of what Jesus himself says is the reason that he came. He says, right at the end of right at the end of the section in Luke chapter 19 that we looked at in our Lent book yesterday, he says the reason I came was to seek and to save the lost. The story, Luke 19, verses 1 to 10, is one that we're quite familiar with as a church family. It's the story of Zacchaeus and Jesus, and it's a story that we taught recently at an all-age service. And it's there that at the end, Jesus says, "This is why I've come, to seek and save lost people." He's on a rescue mission. And whilst there is a grain of truth in all of the other ones, the prophet, the teacher, the healer, the revolutionary, the good man, all of those things, actually, if you put them together, you still fall short of the reason that Jesus said he came, which is to seek and save the lost. Confession time. I'm becoming slightly addicted to a form of telly which is new to me. And it's usually called something like ER helicopter doctors or heli medics to the rescue or something like that. And basically, it's a documentary which follows the crews of the air ambulances, which are situated all around the country, as they fly to help some of the most critically injured people in our nation. And it's fantastic. The helicopter swoops down, they leap out, they administer life-saving medical treatment, and then often an ambulance comes along, about half an hour later, and these people are able to be transported to hospital, or they have to load them into the helicopter and race across the countryside to get them to the hospital care that they need. It's brilliant stuff. But here's the thing: I never think of Jesus like that. I always think of Jesus as being some vaguely religious, nice bloke, a bit like the Archbishop of Canterbury. But I should think of him as being like ER heli doctors, because he came to seek and save the lost. You'll remember the story of Zacchaeus. He's hated and he's short, and no one in the crowd would give him the time of day, let alone a chance to see over the heads of everyone else and to see Jesus as he was walking through Jericho. So Zacchaeus bombs along the road. He goes on and climbs a tree, knowing that Jesus will come and walk past, and he'll be able to see the man of the hour as he does so. But what happens is a surprise, because Jesus stops, he looks up into the tree, and he says, "Zacchaeus, come down. I want to be your friend." Well, words to that effect. I accept you. I want to be your friend. And Zacchaeus shoots down the tree. He accepts Jesus' offer of friendship. He accepts Jesus' forgiveness, and he lives his life as a changed man. The surprise in the story is it looks like Zacchaeus is wanting to see Jesus, but all this time, what's actually happening is that Jesus is looking for Zacchaeus and people like Zacchaeus, people who know they're spiritually lost. Why? Well, because he says, the Son of Man, his way of talking about himself, came to seek and save the lost. He's still looking for spiritually lost people. That's a challenge to me. I wonder about you. Is that how you see yourself? Hopefully, be able to chat with you a little bit more tomorrow. Bye now.